What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of Yards Per Fantasy. I am your host, Kevin Brumley. So I want you to stop what you're doing, but don't stop the video, okay? And I want you guys to take the time to drop a sub to our channel. We're cranking out great content. It's not just me, but it's the other video producers that we have. Check out our website. We have tremendous writers. So definitely show us some love. Show me some love, too. Check out my channel, which is called The Sports Muse. You can check me out on social media. But like I said, I love to kick it over here with Yards Per. So drop a sub and all that fun stuff. But let's go ahead and talk about some fantasy football. That's why we're here today, folks. All right, season 1 is finally here. All right. So I'm going through and I'm talking about 3 quarterbacks I like, 3 quarterbacks I dislike, and I'm doing that for every position right now. So the 3 quarterbacks that I like week 1. First guy I'm going with is Russell Wilson. He's taken on at the Atlanta Falcons, and I am down hard on Atlanta this year. Their defense was horrendous last year. It was not good. I don't think it's gotten better. I'm not a fan of Dan Quinn personally. Well, not personally. I'm not a fan of him as a coach. I don't know the person. But I just like Russell Wilson. I think he's going to be motivated. He's constantly kind of slept on and disrespected. I just think he's going to light it up. I think DK Metcalf takes the next step. Tyler Lockett always solid. With the running game being a little bit, murky right now, we don't know the health of quite a few of their backs. I'm going with Russell Wilson. The next guy I like is Josh Allen. All I've heard this season is people hating on Josh Allen. He's got Diggs in town now. He finally has his true number 1 receiver to go along with John Brown and Cole Beasley. Now they have, Singletary is a year older. I like Josh Allen, and you talk about a train wreck, and that is the New York Jets. The only bright spot they had on that team, they just traded them away to Seattle. So I definitely don't like the Jets. I like Josh Allen. He's got that floor of high floor for rushing yards. So I'm a fan of Josh Allen. And then the last guy, which is a little bit further down the rankings at 19 according to Fantasy Pros, and that is Garner Menshu. The Jaguars are not good as a team. Okay, they're probably going to go like 4-12. But Gardner looked really good as an undrafted free agent last year. He has Chark, he has Conley, he has D.D. Westbrook. They just got rid of Lenny Fournette. That defense isn't good. To do anything, they're going to have to pass the ball. So it might be some garbage time stuff, but I like Garner Minshew to put up some good numbers, and I think he will go past the 19th best quarterback, and I think he could be a QB1 this week. 3 quarterbacks that I am not taking this week, whether it's daily fantasy or if they're on my team, I'm looking for a different starter. The number 1 guy is Kyler Murray, and I love Kyler Murray. I love Kyler Murray this season, but as far as this goes, he's going against San Francisco. They made it to the Super Bowl last year, and the reason they made it to the Super Bowl last year is that defense is vaunted. He doesn't really have much of a rapport with DeAndre Hopkins yet. I think Murray's going to be great this season, but for week 1, I'm kind of staying away. And the next guy is TB12. We talk about the lack of rapport. He's in a new system. Just stupid talent around him, like unfair talent in Tampa Bay right now. But New Orleans, it's not the old Saints that used to be horrible on defense and have to beat you by putting up 40, 50 points. This Saints defense is very, very good. And just for week 1, Brady 43. I don't know what it looks like. I kind of want to give it a week to see what Brady looks like there in Tampa. And then the last guy is another guy that I'm high on for the season. I just don't want him in week 1 because of his opponent, and that is Matthew Stafford going against the Chicago Bears. Eddie Jackson back there ball hawking. Outside of Kenny Golladay, I'm not super high on any of the receivers there. There's some solid guys, just nobody that really blows my mind. So I just kind of want to stay away from Detroit this week against that Bears team because it's going to be a dirty, in division, grungy game. So I'm staying away from Matthew Stafford. 3 running backs that I am targeting this week in week 1. Number 1 guy is a gentleman that I'm not I'm a little bit down on compared to the consensus, and that's Austin Eckler. But he's going against the Bengals. I don't like the Bengals linebacker situation. Tyrod Taylor doesn't really push the ball down the field, so I expect Eckler to not only get a lot of work on the ground, but I also expect him to catch probably upwards of 6 balls this game. And we're talking about PPR. There's 6 points right there. I expect a touchdown. I really like Austin Eckler this week. They have him ranked as 7th, but I think he's going to be a top 5 back this week. The next gentleman is a guy who had a pretty down season last year, disappointed a lot of fantasy owners, and that is James Conner. He is going against the G-Man. I like Pittsburgh a lot in this game. I think they're probably the best lock of the week from a gambling standpoint. I expect James Conner to put up some numbers. It's his redemption season. It's his contract season. He's going to come in motivated, looking to put up some numbers. And the last guy I really, really like is Devin Singletary. He is ranked as the 25th running back. He is going again against the treacherous New York Jets. And I think Singletary is one of the most underrated running backs in the game. I think he's a very well-rounded young man. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. And, if Josh Allen doesn't poach a few touchdowns from him, I do like Devin Singletary a lot this week. 3 running backs that I do not like this week, and all 3 of these guys are in the top 10. I think the top running backs are going to struggle a little bit this week. And the first guy I'm going to talk about is Saquon Barkley going against Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh on paper is the best defense in the league this season. They have a great front 7. Their back end is solid, and they can hold up in some man, running some zero coverages. I think their lone goal is to really shut down Saquon Barkley this week. Now Barkley's going to get his. He's going to catch some passes. So in PPR, he's safe in that, in that way. But if you're expecting Saquon to put up one of those 25, 30-point weeks, I don't think so. And I could even see him finishing around, 14, 15 points this week. The next man is with health. The team that they're playing is I'm not loving Alvin Kamara. He's the 5th best, or he's the ranked 5th back this week. And week 1, he's going against Tampa Bay. His back is concerning to me, and I know people don't really know how to take it. I've heard some recent reports that it looks a little bit better than the initial reports. It's just backs and a back injury and running backs don't pair together too well. I just kind of want to stay away this week. I just think Alvin Kamara could struggle going, and we might see a little bit more Latavius Murray while Kamara gets a little bit more healthy. And the last back is a back that I'm kind of just down on in general, even for the season, and that is Kenyon Drake. I know people are sipping the Kool-Aid. I am not one of them, okay? Kenyon Drake in week 1 is going against the Niners. I don't like it. The Niners, their front 7, tremendous. Kenyon Drake, I had a few huge weeks last year. To me, I was taking him as a back in the teens. I definitely wasn't touching him in the top 10 like a lot of drafts had him going. So, Kenyon Drake, I'm a little bit down on for the season. I'm definitely down on in week 1. 3 receivers that I like this week in week 1 is number 1 is Devonte Adams. I have him as my wide receiver 1 in week 1. He's going against Minnesota. They lost some people in the secondary. They weren't even very good in the secondary last year. I look for Aaron Rodgers to be highly motivated after, I think he feels disrespected with them taking a quarterback in the first round. They got him 0 help. Devonte Adams is immensely talented. Aaron Rodgers is immensely talented. Those two have a connection. Look for Devonte Adams to pop off. All right, the next guy I'm going with is this is kind of just more of a gut feeling, and I'm going with the 19th receiver, which is Odell Beckham Jr. New coach, OBJ. He's kind of a loud guy. He's a me first guy. I think they're going to look to force feed him a little bit. And with them playing Baltimore, Marcus Peters, you should see on him quite a bit, does jump routes. OBJ, famous for taking slants to the hizzy. Look for him to run a sluggo. Look for him to run a stop and go, out and up. Double move Marcus Peters at least once to catch one over the top and score big. And then he's just going to get work the rest of the game. I think you can fully expect double-digit targets for OBJ. The next guy I want to talk about is Terry McLaurin. It's really, really bad out there in Washington. They don't have any talent really. It's going to come down to Terry McLaurin catching a ton of balls this season because they're probably going to be playing from behind. Some people are high on Gibson, which is great, but they really don't have a lot of talent out there. With Philly being a little bit beat up, secondary's not fantastic. Look for Terry McLaurin to get a ton of targets, to put up some numbers, and to continue his ascending talent. And I'm actually going to give you a bonus guy. I really like DJ Chark this week too. He's playing Indy. If Indy has a weakness, it's going to be their back end on defense. Speaking of a train wreck, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they got rid of Lenny Forrence this past week. So look for them to be down because that defense isn't very good. Look for them to be, playing from behind, throwing the ball out a lot. Might be some garbage time points, but I do like DJ Chark this week. 3 receivers that I am trying to stay away from this week in daily fantasy. I'm not necessarily going to bench them because they're on my team, depending on how deep my league is. But the first guy I want to talk about is the number 8 ranked receiver in PPR according to the Fantasy Pros, and that is DeAndre Hopkins. He's playing the Niners. The Niners have a great defense, like I've said in the past. With DeAndre Hopkins not having a great rapport yet with Kyler Murray, or at least we don't know yet. Too many unknowns for me to take him highly in like daily fantasy or anything like that. So I'm trying to stay away from and fade DeAndre Hopkins a little bit. The next guy I want to talk about is Amari Cooper. They're playing the Rams. Jalen Ramsey, probably the best corner in the NFL right now. Amari Cooper has some troubles against physical corners. So I look for Jalen Ramsey to follow him around. Cooper's not somebody who lines up in the slot a ton. So I don't like Amari Cooper this week. And then the last guy I want to talk about is Keenan Allen. I think William Jackson III for Cincinnati is one of the most underrated corners in the NFL. I think Cincinnati has done a pretty good job this offseason of improving their secondary. Now, the good thing about Keenan Allen is he can line up essentially anywhere. He's extremely versatile, and that might help him. But with Tyrod Taylor, we don't know what he's going to look like yet in this system. So I'm trying to fade Keenan Allen a little bit this week. 3 tight ends that I am fading this week. The first one is a guy that I'm down on, and I am not a huge fan of. I think he's actually pretty overrated as far as what teams were saying. Let's start over. The first guy that I am fading as far as tight ends go is a gentleman that I've been fading this entire draft process. I actually don't own stocks of him in any of my leagues, and that is Tyler Higby. He's going against Dallas. That Dallas team is very good. Gerald Everett is going to be back. We saw with Everett in the lineup, Higby did not put up great numbers. I could be wrong, but I am fading Tyler Higby not only this week, but season long. Another guy that I'm fading for this week in week 1 is Hayden Hurst going against Seattle. With Bobby Wagner back there, with Adams now in Seattle, I don't like Hayden Hurst for this week. For the season, I kind of like him taking that Austin Hooper role, but this week I'm fading Hayden Hurst. And the last one is Evan Ingram. It's another guy I like for the season, but against Pittsburgh, they have some athletic guys. They have Edmonds, who they got to particularly stop tight ends. They have Devin Bush. They have athletic linebackers. I don't like Evan Ingram this week. 3 tight ends that I like for week 1. The first one is my tight end 1 for week 1, which is Zac Ertz. Have I mentioned to you recently how pitiful the Washington professional football team is? If I haven't, they're terrible. Zac Ertz is, Carson Wentz, his favorite go-to target. So look for Zac Ertz to get open early and often. I expect a touchdown. I expect a ton of targets. Watch out for Zac Ertz. The next guy, I think this is going to be his coming out party. A lot of people have been talking about him as this year's Mark Andrews, and that is Noah Fant. Noah Fant, I know there's a ton of talent around him, but with, some rookie receivers, Hamler's actually beat up a little bit already. Sutton on the outside, look for Fant to take advantage, over the top, running down the seams. I like Noah Fant this week. And a guy, if you're listening to training camp reports, the Steelers have been raving and talking a lot about Eric Ebron. He's been doing a lot of great things in training camp. We know Big Ben loves big targets. Look for Eric Ebron to at least put up 1 touchdown this week, if not 2. Let's talk about some guys I like this week in week one for daily fantasy, a little DFS. I am going with the potential of Garner Menshu at $5,800 here on DraftKings. I try to be a little bit cheaper on quarterbacks so I can spend a little bit more at the running back receiver positions. I also like Tyrod Taylor at $5,600. Like I said, it's cheap. He has that rushing floor. And also look for Cam Newton to really try to show everybody he's still got something left in the tank. He is going for $6,100. Now we get to some running back options that I really like. And the first one I'm going to talk about is Austin Eckler. He's going for $7,000 here on DraftKings. I love his upside this week. I think he has a lot of opportunity to catch not only balls this week. I think he's going to get quite a few rushing attempts and look for him to put up a multiple touchdown game. Okay, and that takes me to Devin Singletary. Extremely undervalued. I've talked about that on previous episodes. I've done a piece just on Devin Singletary. He's 5,400. I know they got Moss, but the New York Jets aren't good. Look for Devin Singletary to put up some numbers early. And I definitely would like Devin Singletary at a lower price, 5,400. And then the last guy on a cheaper option I'm going to talk about is Tariq Cohen. David Montgomery is going to, he's the ball carrier, right? Tyree Cohen's the third down back. But I like Cohen with Montgomery being a little bit beat up recently. Look for Cohen to catch some balls. I don't love the linebackers there in Detroit, and I love Tyree Cohen going for $4,900 this week. Three receivers that I'm going after this week in daily fantasy. The first one is Devonte Adams. I talked about that. I'd love him this week as the wide receiver one for just fantasy football. DFS, he's $7,300. He's going to put up tremendous numbers there against Minnesota. I love Devonte Adams this week. Next guy I want to talk about is a guy that's just a tier below him, which is DJ Moore. He might be the best receiver in football that nobody knows about. DJ Moore, extremely talented. Him and Teddy Bridgewater, even though they didn't have an offseason together, I look for them to kind of get things going, then to put on a little bit of a show, and for DJ Moore to be a little bit more of a household name after this week. And a cheaper guy that I want to go with for daily fantasy is Hollywood Brown. I'm really looking forward to this Ravens offense this season. I'm looking to watch. Think about what they did in Week 1 last year. I think they're going to attempt to throw the ball a little bit more with Lamar this year to save them, take some of those hits. So look for a little bit more passing attempts. And Hollywood, I think, is the clear-cut number one guy there in Baltimore. So definitely take Hollywood Brown, $5,100, an absolute steal. Tight end's a no-brainer for me this week in daily fantasy. I am taking Zac Ertz to absolutely give the smackdown, the rock bottom, and the people's elbow to the Washington professional football team. I'm buying a lot of Philly stock this week, and I love what Zac Ertz is going to do to those linebackers, going to put them in a spin cycle. But if you spend all your money elsewhere in daily fantasy and you want a cheap tight end, I do like the upside of Tyler Eifert in Jacksonville. I think he's a guy that's, he's kind of a boomer bust guy. I think he's a touchdown dependent guy. But like I said, I do think Garner Menshu is going to be throwing the ball a lot because that team is pretty atrocious. And I think Tyler Eifert, if he stays healthy and doesn't get hurt in Week 1, I do look for Tyler Eifert to put up some numbers in the first week.